I think I didn't do anything wrong, just wanted to make him jealous for once. I said it without thinking, that I'd accepted my ex's ring, that maybe I should have chosen differently. But the way he looked at me after, calm, silent, final, made me realize I'd just ended something I thought was unbreakable. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. The restaurant was louder than I remembered. Low lights, too many people pretending to listen while checking their phones. I sat across from Noel, my ex, a glass of white wine in my hand, and a smile I didn't really feel. He was talking about his tour, his new apartment, his new version of happiness, and all I could think about was how easily he slipped back into charm. It annoyed me. It also thrilled me a little. He leaned forward, lowering his voice just enough to sound serious. "You still wear gold, huh?" I looked down at my bracelet and shrugged. "Always have." He smiled. "Then you'll like this." When he pulled the small box from his jacket, my heart skipped. For a second, I thought it was a joke, another one of his dramatic gestures. Inside was a ring, nothing like my wedding one. This one was bold, ornate, glittering under the candlelight. "Noel," I said, laughing a little too loudly, "you can't be serious." He smirked. "Why not? You said you used to love surprises." I hesitated, fingers brushing the edge of the box. "You're impossible." He leaned back. "It's not a proposal, Leona. Just a memory. Call it a what if." I rolled my eyes, but something about the confidence in his voice made me want to prove I could still play his game. I slipped the ring onto my finger and lifted my hand. "Well, it fits," I said lightly. He grinned. "Guess it was meant to." For a brief second, I forgot the rest of the room existed. It felt like old times, reckless, loud, indulgent. Then my phone buzzed. Evan, my husband, outside. My stomach tightened. I'd told him this dinner was just a catch-up with an old friend. He didn't question it. He never did. I slid the ring off quickly, but the mark it left on my skin seemed brighter than it should have been. When I reached the parking lot, Evan was leaning against the car, hands in his pockets, eyes calm. He wasn't the jealous type. That was what I used to love about him and what started to bore me. He smiled faintly. "Good dinner?" "Fine," I said, forcing lightness. "Just catching up." "Uh-huh." His eyes dropped to my hand. "You left with no ring, came back with one." I looked down. I'd forgotten to take Noel's off completely. The glint under the streetlight betrayed me. "Oh, this? It's not what it looks like." He didn't move. "What is it then?" I could have told the truth. I could have laughed it off. But something in his steady voice made me want to push. "It's from Noel," I said. He joked about what might have happened if I'd said yes back then. Evan's face didn't change. "And you accepted it?" "It's just a ring," I said quickly. "It's funny." "Funny," he repeated quietly. "That's what we're calling this?" I crossed my arms. "Oh, come on, Evan, don't make it serious. You never react to anything." His eyes met mine then, calm but sharp. "Maybe I stopped reacting because you always wanted a scene." That stung. "So you'd rather pretend nothing bothers you? Maybe if you acted like a man for once." He cut me off softly. "Do you still have it?" "The ring?" "Yes." I hesitated. "It's in my bag." He nodded slowly and opened the car door. "Then let's go home." The drive was silent, headlights sliding across the windshield in long, pale lines. I kept glancing at him, waiting for anger, for a question, for anything. But he just drove. The silence was worse than yelling. It felt like being erased in real time. When we got home, he went straight to the kitchen and set his keys down. I followed, heart pounding. "You're overreacting," I said. "You know Noel's full of himself. It's harmless." He didn't turn around. "So you wore another man's ring to make me jealous?" I froze. The way he said it, flat, without accusation, made my throat tighten. "You never notice anything I do anymore," I said quietly. "I wanted to see if you still cared." He looked at me then, eyes cold but steady. "You wanted proof I care, so you pretended to accept someone else's proposal." "It wasn't a proposal," I snapped. "It was a joke." He nodded once, like he'd already heard enough. "If you've accepted someone else's ring, maybe you should accept his future too." The words hit like a slap, but his tone didn't rise. He wasn't trying to hurt me. He was done trying at all. I stepped closer. "Evan, you're twisting this." He walked past me, pausing only long enough to slide off his own wedding ring. He placed it gently on the counter beside the car keys. "I'm not twisting anything," he said. "I'm just taking you at your word." "Where are you going?" I asked, voice breaking. "Guest room," he said. "For now." I wanted to run after him, to make him argue, to drag him back into the chaos where I felt safe. But the click of the door was final. I stood there, staring at the two rings lying inches apart on the countertop, one borrowed from my past, one surrendered from my present. The silence in the house pressed against me until I whispered, "You'll calm down by morning." But deep down, I knew he wouldn't. He wasn't angry. He was finished, and that terrified me more than anything he could have said. The next morning, the house felt different, too still, too clean. Evan always woke first, made coffee, and left a mug for me on the counter. But the counter was empty. His ring was still there, a small circle of gold catching the morning light, but no note, no mug, no sound of him moving around. I called out, "Evan?" Nothing. The guest room door was open, the bed untouched. He'd slept somewhere else, maybe not even here. I checked my phone. No messages, not even a missed call. I wanted to tell myself he'd just gone to work early, that he was cooling off. But the silence had a shape to it, heavy and deliberate. I made coffee myself, the sound of the machine too loud. When I set the mug down, my phone buzzed. A text from Gina. "How was dinner with the ex? Did hubby freak out?" I stared at the message for a long time before typing back. "Not really. He just shut down." Her reply came fast. "Classic Evan. You have to shake him, Lee. He never reacts unless you make him." I wanted to believe her, that this was just another cold spell, that he'd come around, like always. But as I scrolled through my messages, I saw the photo Noel had sent me after the dinner. Me laughing, the ring flashing under restaurant lights. He'd captioned it, "Still fits perfectly." I deleted it, but the image stuck in my head. When I got to the boutique, everyone seemed to already know. News traveled fast in our small circle, and Noel wasn't shy. One of the girls at the counter gave me a curious look. "You're trending in our group chat," she said with a smirk. "Noel posted something last night." My stomach dropped. "Posted what?" She showed me her phone. It was a story. Noel holding a glass of champagne, a caption across the screen. "Some chances come back around." I wasn't in the frame, but the ring was unmistakable, glinting in his palm. "Unbelievable," I muttered. The girl laughed. "It's kind of romantic, though." I forced a smile. "Yeah, I guess." When I went to the back room, I called Noel immediately. He answered on the second ring. "Morning, stranger." "What did you post?" I demanded. "Relax," he said smoothly. "It's just a joke. Everyone knows it's a joke." "Delete it," he chuckled. "Why? It's good publicity. People love a little drama." "This isn't funny, Noel," I said, lowering my voice. "Evan saw that ring. He thinks I meant it." A pause. "Didn't you?" The question landed like a slap. "Don't play games with me," I said, and hung up. When I got home that evening, the house was dark. His shoes were gone. The closet was half empty. The wedding photo from the hallway, missing. I called him again. Voicemail. Finally, around 9, my phone buzzed. It was Martha, his mother. Her tone was clipped, controlled. Leona, I think you should give Evan some space. I swallowed hard. He told you? He didn't have to. I saw the photo. It was just a joke, she said. That word keeps following you. I closed my eyes. You don't understand. She sighed softly. You're right. I don't understand what kind of wife tries to humiliate her husband in public. I didn't humiliate him, I snapped. I was trying to get his attention. He doesn't feel anything anymore. Maybe he's learned not to, she said quietly. Maybe he realized feeling around you just hurts. Her voice was calm, not cruel, which somehow made it worse. When she hung up, I stood there with the phone still pressed to my ear, realizing that I was suddenly the villain in a story I didn't think could turn against me. At midnight, I heard the front door. I ran to the hallway. Evan was standing there, tired but composed. He carried a small duffel bag. You're back, I said quickly. We should talk. He set the bag down and looked at me, expression unreadable. There's nothing to talk about. Yes, there is. You can't just walk away. He tilted his head slightly. You told me you accepted another man's ring. You think I'm supposed to fight for you now? It wasn't real, I said. I was trying to make a point. He nodded slowly. You made one. Evan, he interrupted softly. You've spent years turning feelings into tests, jokes, games. You wanted to see what would make me react. This is it. I didn't mean for it to go this far. That's what people always say right before it does. He walked past me into the kitchen, poured himself water, and set the glass beside his ring on the counter. You can tell everyone I left because I was weak or boring or whatever story makes sense. But this isn't anger, Leona. It's exhaustion. I reached for him. Don't do this. He stepped back. You wanted me to notice you, right? Well, I finally do, and I don't like what I see. The words hit harder than shouting ever could. He picked up his bag, slung it over his shoulder, and headed for the door. Where will you go? I asked, my voice shaking. He paused. Somewhere quiet. The door shut behind him with a dull click. I stood in the silence that followed, every part of me waiting for the sound of footsteps returning. But there was only the low hum of the fridge, the faint smell of his cologne fading from the hall. I wanted to cry, but what came out instead was a small, broken laugh. I'd wanted a reaction, and I finally got one. It just wasn't the kind I could fix. The next few days unfolded like a slow, public unraveling. By Tuesday morning, everyone seemed to know something. Customers at the boutique whispered when I walked past. The store's assistant manager, Carla, gave me that careful tone people reserve for bad news. If you need to take a few days off, Leona, we'll understand, she said, arranging scarves that didn't need arranging. I'm fine, I said quickly. People overreact. She hesitated. Then maybe you should stay off social media. When she left, I opened my phone and saw why. Noel had posted another photo, this time of an open jewelry box, the ring, and a caption that read, "Timing is everything." The comments were full of laughing emojis and speculation. One said, "Guess she finally realized what she missed." My throat went dry. I messaged him immediately, "Delete it now." He replied a minute later, "Relax, it's free advertising. You look amazing in that shot anyway." I typed and erased 3 angry replies before settling on one. "You're humiliating me." He didn't answer. By the time I left work, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Gina called 5 times. When I finally answered, she was out of breath from excitement. "You're all over the gossip threads, Lee. They think Noel's proposing." "He's not," I said through clenched teeth. "Then say so. Post something." "I'm not feeding that circus." "Then people will assume it's true," she said simply. "You have to control the story." Her words stuck with me all the way home. Control the story. That was what I'd always done best. If people were going to talk, I'd at least decide what they said. So that night, I posted a short message. Some jokes get taken too far. It was just a reunion dinner, not a proposal. People should relax. The comments were immediate. Half supportive, half mocking. Someone tagged Noel. Another wrote, "Then why did you wear it?" I threw my phone on the couch. Around 8, Tom Gray, Noel's brother, called me. I hadn't spoken to him in years. His voice was low and steady. "Leona, you should tell him to stop," he said. "I already did. He's enjoying the attention. He doesn't care what it's doing to you." "I can handle it." Tom hesitated. "Evan didn't deserve this. You know that, right?" My throat tightened. "It's not what it looks like." "I don't think that matters anymore," he said softly. "People see what they want to." After he hung up, I sat in the dark, staring at the faint outline of Evan's shoes still by the door. He hadn't come back for them. He hadn't come back for anything. The next morning, Martha showed up unannounced. I opened the door to find her standing there, her posture straight as a line, a paper in her hand. "I thought you should see this," she said. It was a printout of Noel's latest post. This time he'd tagged me directly. Some things just take time. I felt heat rise to my cheeks. "It's a misunderstanding." She looked me over, not unkindly, but without sympathy. "You've had a lot of those." I sighed. "You're here to judge me?" "I'm here because my son won't return my calls," she said quietly. "He's moved into a friend's place, said he needed distance from everything." I didn't know what to say. She folded the paper neatly and placed it on my kitchen table. "You think humiliation is power, Leona. But the thing about men like Evan, they don't fight back. They just leave. And once they do, they don't come home." Her words lingered long after she left. Later that day, Carla called to tell me there'd been reporters outside the store asking about me. "Maybe take the week off," she said. I stayed home scrolling endlessly through headlines and comments, trying to piece together what everyone thought had happened. The more I read, the clearer it became that truth didn't matter. The story had already been written. The cold husband, the restless wife, the ex who swooped in. I tried calling Evan again. Voicemail. I left a message. "We need to talk. I didn't mean what I said about the ring. I just wanted your attention. Please call me." He didn't. Instead, that evening, I got a text from one of his coworkers, someone I barely knew. "You should tell your husband to check his work email before HR does." Attached was a screenshot of Noel's ring photo circulating in an office group chat. I felt sick. Evan had always kept his private life private. Now, even his colleagues were talking about me, about us. An hour later, I saw the update I'd been dreading. A photo of Evan at his desk, his wedding ring gone. Someone in the comments had written, "Looks like he finally got the message." I dropped my phone, the sound echoing in the quiet kitchen. My reflection in the dark window looked like a stranger, angry, defensive, scared. I thought about every time I'd told him he needed to be more passionate, more reactive, more alive. I'd begged him to show emotion. Now, in that single gesture, the bare hand on his desk, he'd shown me exactly how he felt. For the first time, I understood that silence could be louder than shouting, that detachment could be its own kind of revenge. When I finally crawled into bed, I kept my eyes open, staring at the ceiling, half expecting to hear his key in the door. But there was only quiet, the kind that doesn't fade, the kind that feels permanent. Somewhere, Noel was probably laughing about the mess he'd made. Gina was probably scrolling through the comments, choosing sides, but all I could think about was Evan's steady voice the night he left. "You wanted me to notice you, right? Well, I finally do." And I realized, lying there alone, that being noticed was never the problem. It was what he'd seen that broke us. By Thursday morning, it had been a full week since Evan left, and the house had started to feel less like home and more like a stage I'd been locked inside after the audience went home. The coffee machine was silent. The dining table sat untouched. His ring still gleamed on the counter, the one he'd taken off without ceremony. Every time I walked past it, I felt an ache that was half pride, half shame. I checked my phone again. Still nothing. No calls, no texts, no sign of him. Gina had stopped messaging too. Maybe she was tired of hearing me say he'll come back once he cools off. Maybe she'd realized before I did that he wasn't coming back at all. By noon, I decided to drive to his office. It sounded foolish even as I thought it, but I needed to see him. I needed to fix it before the silence hardened into something final. When I walked into the lobby, the receptionist recognized me immediately. Her polite smile faltered. "Oh, Mrs. Firth," she said softly. "Evan's not here." I frowned. "Not here? Where is he?" She hesitated. "He took a leave of absence. He mentioned it might be permanent." My stomach dropped. "Permanent?" She nodded quickly. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that." I walked out before I cried in front of her. The idea of Evan calmly explaining his departure, turning in his keycard, clearing his desk, it felt too deliberate. He wasn't hiding. He was closing the door carefully behind him. That night, I emailed him. "Evan, please, I know you're angry, but this isn't fair. It was one mistake." One sentence said in frustration, "Please talk to me." No reply. The next day, Martha came again. She didn't knock this time, just walked in carrying a small box. "He asked me to bring this," she said. I opened it and saw our wedding photos. Not the album, just loose prints. A few had small creases like he'd folded them once, then changed his mind. "He doesn't want these," she said. My throat tightened. "He's really done, isn't he?" She sighed. "He's not punishing you, Leona. He's protecting himself. You've mistaken his quiet for weakness for too long." I tried to laugh, but it came out brittle. "You sound just like him." Martha set the box down and looked around the room. "He told me once that he married you because you were the loudest person in any room, and he needed that energy. But then he realized he was just giving you a stage." "Don't do this," I whispered. She shook her head. "I'm not trying to hurt you. I just want you to stop pretending you didn't see this coming." When she left, I finally cried. Not quiet tears, ugly, shaking sobs that felt endless. I cried until I couldn't tell if it was grief or pride breaking down. That evening, a letter came by courier. An official envelope with the name of a law firm printed across the top. Inside was a brief note from his lawyer, notice of marital separation and preliminary filing for dissolution. My hands trembled. The second page listed joint assets, accounts, the house, even the car. Every line looked cold, calculated. Evan had always been thorough, but seeing our life broken into sections of property and liability made me nauseous. I called his number again, straight to voicemail. I said his name 3 times before hanging up. Later that night, Gina finally texted, "He filed, didn't he?" "Yes," I replied. "He didn't even tell me himself." Her next message came fast. "You wanted him to react. He did. You just didn't like how." I threw the phone onto the couch. The next morning, my manager called. "Leona, I think it's best if you take a leave. The story is affecting business." "Are you firing me?" I asked. "Not officially," she said gently. "But we can't have customers whispering about the woman with 2 rings. The phrase hit me like a punch. The woman with 2 rings. That's how people saw me now, a walking headline. That evening, I drove past Noel's apartment. I didn't even know why. Maybe to tell him to stop posting. Maybe to see if he felt even a fraction of what I felt. He opened the door, shirtless, casual, surprised to see me. "Leona," he said, smirking, "you look like you've seen a ghost." "You need to stop," I said. "The photos, the posts, all of it." He raised an eyebrow. "What's the big deal? You said it was harmless fun." I took a step closer. "It cost me my marriage." He didn't flinch. "You did that yourself." I slapped him before I could stop myself. He just smiled and rubbed his jaw. Still dramatic as ever. I turned and walked away before he could see me crying. When I got home, I found a final email waiting from Evan. It was short, 3 sentences. I transferred the funds from our joint account. You can keep the house. Don't contact me again. Take care of yourself. That last line shattered me. Take care of yourself. No anger, no hatred, just closure. I sat on the floor reading it again and again until the words blurred. It wasn't rage that broke me. It was his peace. He'd found it, finally. And he'd left me with the one thing I'd always feared most. Silence that didn't need me to fill it. I spent the next week convincing myself it wasn't over. People said stupid things when they were angry, didn't they? Evan would calm down once the dust settled. That's what I told myself each morning as I checked my email for his name and found only automated reminders from the bank and boutique. Then came the message from his lawyer. Short, efficient, polite. Mr. Firth prefers to communicate exclusively through counsel moving forward. I read it twice before it hit me. He didn't even want to hear my voice anymore. That afternoon, I met Gina at a cafe. I hadn't seen her in days. She looked uncomfortable, stirring her coffee without drinking it. "You look awful," she said finally. "Thanks," I muttered. She sighed. "Leona, you have to stop trying to control this. It's over." "I just need to talk to him," I said. "Once he hears me, he's not listening," she interrupted gently. "He doesn't have to." I stared out the window. Everyone thinks I'm the villain. "Then stop giving them reasons to be right." Her words stung more than I expected. I wanted to remind her she'd told me to push him, to make him react, but I didn't. Maybe she already regretted saying it. Later that day, I received an email from the boutique owner. "We've decided to terminate your position effective immediately." Attached was a polite note about public image concerns. I read it twice before closing my laptop. There wasn't even anger left, just a numb sense of inevitability. That evening, I opened a bottle of wine and sat on the floor, surrounded by things that still smelled like him. His jacket, his old notebook, the pillow he never took when he left. Every object looked like evidence from a case I'd already lost. When the wine ran out, I did something stupid. I opened my messages with Noel. "Hope you're happy," I typed. "You got your attention." He replied instantly. "You're blaming me? I didn't tell you to play house with both of us." I stared at the screen, fingers trembling. "You ruined everything." He sent a laughing emoji. "You did that on your own." I threw the phone across the room. The crash felt good for half a second before the guilt set in. The next morning, Noel posted screenshots of our old messages, flirty, careless words I'd sent months before the dinner. I hadn't meant them then, but they looked incriminating now. Within hours, they were everywhere. "Guess she wasn't as loyal as she claimed," one comment said. By noon, my phone was a furnace of notifications. My boss's decision suddenly made sense. I'd gone from local gossip to a public scandal. Even strangers were dissecting my life, judging every word, every photo. I called Gina again. She didn't pick up. Then, a number I didn't recognize flashed on my phone. I hesitated before answering. It was Evan's lawyer. His voice was calm. "Mrs. Firth, I'm calling to inform you that the divorce has been finalized as of this morning." The room spun. "Finalized?" "Yes. Mr. Firth signed yesterday. You'll receive the settlement documents later today." I tried to breathe. Can I talk to him?" "That won't be possible," he said softly. He requested no direct contact. He paused before adding, "He did leave a note for you, though. I'm authorized to read it." My heart pounded. Read it. There was a rustle of papers. Then the lawyer's voice, steady and impersonal. "You said yes to him before I ever asked you to say sorry." I closed my eyes. "Is that all?" "That's all," he said. I hung up and sat there for a long time, staring at nothing. The sentence echoed in my head until it stopped sounding like words and started feeling like a door closing. That evening, I went for a walk downtown. The air was cool, the streets busy, and I caught a glimpse of myself reflected in every glass surface. Same woman, different expression. Hollow. People still recognized me. I heard whispers, saw the sideways looks. I kept walking. Near the corner cafe, I froze. Through the window, I saw Evan. He was sitting at a small table, laughing softly with a woman I didn't recognize. She had warm eyes and simple clothes, nothing dramatic or loud. He looked relaxed in a way I hadn't seen in years. My first instinct was to go in, to make a scene, to remind him I still existed. But I didn't move. I just watched as he leaned forward slightly, listening to her, smiling in that quiet, genuine way I used to take for granted. The woman touched his hand briefly. He didn't pull away. I turned before they could see me and walked quickly back toward the car. My chest ached, but not with anger, just the slow realization that I had nothing left to say that wouldn't sound like begging. When I got home, I opened my email again, rereading the lawyer's note. You said yes to him before I ever asked you to say sorry. It wasn't cruel. It was simply the truth. For years, I'd demanded a reaction from Evan, certain his composure was weakness, but his silence now was stronger than any revenge could ever be. He hadn't yelled, hadn't exposed me, hadn't fought. He'd just let me destroy myself and walked away clean. That night, I poured another glass of wine, but didn't drink it. I sat in the dark, staring at the faint outline of my reflection in the window, the streetlights flickering behind me. My phone buzzed again. Gina, maybe Noel, maybe another reporter. I didn't look. I let it ring. Because for once I understood why Evan had stopped answering. Sometimes silence isn't avoidance. It's the only way to make sure you never have to say I told you so. The morning after seeing Evan at that cafe, I woke to sunlight cutting through the blinds and the unmistakable stillness of defeat, the kind that doesn't make you cry, it just settles into your bones. My phone was full of missed calls, half of them unknown numbers, probably reporters still hoping for a quote. I ignored them all. Instead, I brewed coffee for one and sat at the kitchen counter where his ring still lay. It had gathered a faint layer of dust, dull now instead of gold. I reached out and traced the circle with my fingertip. It wasn't anger that burned in my chest this time. It was the absence of it. A dull ache that felt final. Around mid-morning, Martha texted me for the first time since the papers were signed. He doesn't read your emails anymore. Please stop writing to him. Let him be happy. I stared at the message for a long time. I didn't reply. I had nothing left to argue. The house was too quiet, so I drove into town. Every turn felt familiar, yet strange, like I was walking through someone else's memories. The boutique had replaced me already. New window display, new manager. I stood across the street, invisible behind my sunglasses, watching the new girl smile at customers. No whispers, no tension, just work. The kind of peace I used to ruin on purpose because I thought excitement was love. When I got home, I opened my laptop. The settlement email was still there, unopened. I clicked it finally. Attached was a digital statement showing the transfer of funds, more than fair, generous even. Below that, a short note from Evan typed neatly, all finalized. Wishing you peace and clarity. Peace and clarity. 2 things he'd taken with him and left me none of. I laughed quietly, the sound sharp in the empty room. Later that afternoon, I went into the bedroom and pulled open the drawer where I'd hidden Noel's ring. It was still there in the velvet box, mocking me. I picked it up, turned it in my hand, and realized it was the ugliest thing I'd ever seen. Not because of how it looked, but because of what it cost me. For a moment, I considered mailing it back to him, but then I remembered his smug grin, the way he'd told me I did it to myself, and my stomach turned. He didn't deserve even that courtesy. Instead, I put on my coat, drove downtown, and walked into the boutique where I used to work. Carla looked startled to see me but said nothing. I went straight to the counter, placed the ring box on the glass, and said quietly, "Sell it if you want. Donate it. I don't care." Carla's voice was soft. "You sure?" I nodded. It never belonged to me anyway. Then I walked out before she could respond. Outside, the air was crisp, the sky pale. I wandered without a plan until I found myself near the cafe again. Through the window, Evan wasn't there this time, just empty chairs, the faint echo of laughter from someone else's story. Still, I stood there for a while, watching people come and go, couples leaning close over coffee. For the first time, I saw how gentle ordinary love looked. No games, no tests, no cruel little experiments disguised as jokes. Just two people listening. I had never known how to do that. I sat on a nearby bench and pulled out my phone. The cursor blinked in a blank message window for a long time before I typed, "I'm sorry. I know you won't answer, but I need you to know that I understand now." I stared at the words, felt the tears press at the corners of my eyes, and then deleted the message before hitting send. He didn't owe me a reaction anymore. As dusk fell, I drove back home. The house looked smaller in the fading light. I turned off all the lamps except one in the kitchen. The counter was still the same: keys, cup, ring. I picked up his wedding ring at last. It was cold, lighter than I remembered. For a second, I almost slipped it onto my own finger just to feel something familiar. But I didn't. I set it gently into a small ceramic bowl by the sink and whispered, "You can rest now." The sound of my own voice startled me. It didn't sound angry or desperate, just tired. I poured myself a cup of tea and sat by the window. Outside, streetlights flickered on one by one. Somewhere, Evan was probably laughing again, maybe with that woman from the cafe, maybe with no one at all. And for once, I didn't want to interrupt him. I thought about all the times I'd demanded attention like a starving thing. Every argument I'd started just to feel powerful. Every sarcastic remark that left a bruise I pretended not to see. I'd mistaken fear for passion and control for closeness. But Evan's revenge had never been punishment. It was peace. And peace is the one thing you can't fight against. I looked around the room one last time. The silence wasn't heavy anymore. It was clean. I finished my tea, rinsed the cup, and turned off the light. As I walked down the hallway, my reflection caught in the dark glass of a picture frame. Me, alone, finally quiet. For the first time in months, I didn't flinch at the sight. Outside, the night settled soft and steady. No more shouting, no more laughter, no more games, just quiet. And in that quiet, I finally understood what Evan meant when he said he was exhausted. Because now, I was too. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next story. Write in the comments from which city you are watching,